Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing the Fear Street Trilogy, as brought to you by Netflix, and I guess originally R.L. Stein.
Sort of.
We gotta
Damn
Inspired
straight,
by it.
Dude,
okay?
we gotta get it. We're
Sorry.
gonna believe me. We're gonna get into some R.L. Stein because I now have
I'm
some.
sure it was like all ghost written in like,
Right.
factories. Yeah.
Joining me tonight, first up from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Hello, Casey. Next up from Maryland, John. You're not long for Maryland, is that right?
At like 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Yeah. Please welcome John Schnarch to the show.
Hello, Eric.
John, I'm in talks right now with a company from New York City about a job thing. Should I be? Should
You're
I
in
tell?
New York
Should I
City.
tell them that there's a possibility, like they could be reconnecting me with my life partner here?
You could be living on my couch. I mean, I haven't asked Suzanne about that, but
It's the dream.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
He
fine.
talks about it.
Don't tease me, John. Last up tonight on the show, first timer, please welcome special Fear Street correspondent from Memphis, Tennessee. Welcome, Elizabeth, to the show.
Howdy, guys.
Elizabeth is a person who taught me
Hey.
where Tennessee is, really, even just the whole state.
The whole
What?
state, it's wide. We take up space.
Yeah.
And he's like,
It really is. I don't read books, so we figured let's get a person who reads books. And
Well, I don't read like books. I read like kind of trash.
you read a
like,
lot of
YA.
this. Yeah, you read a lot of
you
this.
read books when you were younger. It's
You read a lot of this young adult horror smut when
No,
you
I
were a
do
kid,
read.
so we figured it was the
I
perfect
read all of
effort.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that my experience really with R.L. Stein stops at Goosebumps. Like, and I was saying this pre-show, a very specific thing where did you guys have like scholastic book fairs at your school? So that would happen.
They still do those, Eric. That's
John,
still a thing.
I would go in this cycle with myself. That would happen, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, look at these fucking!" Because I loved horror shit, and I was like, "Look at these covers; these look amazing." But then in my head, I'd be like, "But do I read though? Like, do I read?" And I'm like, "But look at that; it's so okay." I'm
I
gonna
like that with words.
I'd be like, I'm gonna
though.
get into this, but that it would be so cool, and it would be a thing, and everybody was doing it. I'd be like, I'm totally gonna get into this, and then I guess would just have my mom order these books that I know I never read. I never read a single one of these things, but I'm
The
sure
Goosebumps you didn't?
no, I didn't. So like,
The Goosebumps are like you could sit down for 45 minutes.
Dude, for real. Like I would bring like 12 on vacation with me and just be like, next. And then
That
we'd
was
have
the
to go to
problem. I
We'd
had
have to go to B.
stop, yeah.
Dalton's and see if they had any more.
well, let's talk about it, Elizabeth, because you introduced me to these Fear Street books, and we actually have been like kind of reading some of them together. They are amazing and terrible and hilarious, but I also totally get like the appeal. Do you want to just talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah. First, I would love to inform the listeners that by reading them together, what Eric means is we read them aloud to one another while on car rides and whatnot. So dramatic reading. It's a lot of
Yes.
fun and very easy to do with the subject material there.
Oh my god,
Because
that's amazing.
R.L. Stein likes to paint word pictures
Mm.
about his ladies, especially. It's like, so it'll be like, Tiffany sat at her daybed with her left knee tucked under her,
Right.
carefully chewing her cuticle with her amber hair flowing. Like,
Like if
It's-
right, like if Tiffany has red hair and that's braided, every single time Tiffany steps into a scene, he will run down the entire description, her physical description.
the man has a thesaurus. He
Well,
uses it.
But I think we decided too that it's like really obvious. It's like a lot of page filler. So there's way more description of every single movement.
Oh, he had a word count that he was trying to hit. I've done this
Well,
before.
yeah,
We've all
they,
done
they
this
had to get to it
before.
a length. I mean,
I think you also mentioned you thought that you had read somewhere that some of them are ghostwritten as well. That this just
I
became
mean,
a
I would say
mill
for
at some
any
point.
author of a series where it's this prolific, the volume, that's in the water. Like, you hear that about, well, Shakespeare even. Like, you really do hear
you
that
hear
about
that about Shakespeare.
anybody who has, like, a
What
math-
is the count? Like I was trying to see.
It's
if
over
there was-
100,
It's. I mean, I was looking at
Just
the
for Fear Street?
page.
just Fear Street.
Well, and
is
they're
insane.
and the lineage is murky, right? Like sometimes they were tangentially related or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1989 was when the first one was published. They have sold over 80 million copies. And he was trying to, he did revive it in 2014. To what effect, I'm not sure. I started reading them probably in 93, 94. Tragically young, honestly. Like, I have no business reading these. But what was worse was
Never
when
looked
I
back.
kept going down that aisle at the library and was like, who's Christopher Pike? What is, dude? Because Christopher Pike was like the Clive Barker of like YA pulp
It's
fiction.
like dark.
Yeah. Like they would be lizard people by the end of it and like being beamed up to the mothership. They definitely had sex and sometimes did coke at parties and stuff. It was very scandalous.
So I read a lot of Goosebumps. I mean, like
Mhm.
10 or so, and it got to the point where they were too short. I mean, sort of, Elizabeth, to your point, like I was like, I need, and I just went right to Christopher Pike. So I was probably in like 3rd or 4th grade, maybe. with a
Dude,
little-
right?
Wow.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Like they were fucking and they were like, shit was
You learn about
happening.
some stuff. Well, so I went then from Christopher Pike to Stephen King
Same.
very quickly. It was like
Same.
I read like
It's gateway.
5 Christopher Pike books, and I was like,
100%.
fuck it, just give me the real deal. Like,
Here's
I'm
what I
in.
love. R.L. Stein solidly is like, all right, I got your tropes. You got this girl, this guy, this happens, blah, blah. Like, look for this if we have this plot twist. When you get to Christopher Pike, it's like, that shit takes some left turns. It's very Shyamalamian. Like, there's stuff going on that it's like, it'll end up like being a cult or like they're all like, all the teachers are like witches or so. Like, he'll just come out of left field with some shit. So that was like really creative and interesting. R.L. Stein taught me everything I know about like hearing a stick break in the woods
It's
in a
like
movie.
true, yeah. It's like true starter horror. It's also
it
like
is like a textbook.
So I have a question, but I also would say that it's he in particular. I think that we joke about a lot is that he like uses it's like a bot.
An
It's like
AI
those jokes
robot.
on Twitter that's like I fed this into a bot and they wrote this because like so much of it is robotic, but also he uses phrases and words that are not real. Like the one we are like inside jokes though in one of these books, he refers to a trash basket.
Very
Not a
casually.
waste basket or a trash can, but a trash basket. Like no one
So
has
it'll be like,
ever said that.
everybody just like think about it for real. So for a second, does this sound natural?
So my question is
Shauna tripped on the trash basket.
So my question is this though, like because when I'm reading these Fear Street books in particular, and this is, it's 2021, we're post-gender here, but I sense that in the 90s that these books feel more skewed to a female audience for me because the main characters are female, the way that they talk about the boys and the love interests, like am I off on that or like I'm just curious.
No, I think it was definitely marketed for female readers, which is interesting because he was like a dude in his like what 30s in the 90s.
Well,
I haven't done
in
the
the
math.
90s, I think he was even later. He's 77 now.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
Math,
43.
40s,
No, he would have
yeah.
been. Yeah, he would have been in his mid.
I mean, it was like him and Judy Blume. He just got girls. He just knew what we
Yeah.
were thinking. No, it was problematic sometimes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure book reading in general skews female.
Yeah.
And
Right,
so
right. Dude, totally. That's what I remember that's what I remember growing up, right? And being like, oh, girls are discriminated against in like the sciences or math. And I'm like, all I remember from high school is all the girls being way smarter than all the guys and like applying themselves more. It like I get it. Like once it was pointed out to me, I saw it, but to my own experience, I was like, yeah, girls are smart. Like that's my whole high school experience.
Not me. I was.
are we gonna get through the gender wage gap here, or like what's
Anyway. Okay, so I think that's a good place to move on. I just kind of want to touch base on like where we all were with that stuff. Good to know. Schnars, Christopher Pike. I like it.
Well, yeah, and I had never read any. I had read 0 Fear Street books, so I had no like frame of reference going into these movies. But now, like we've talked through some of it. I mean, even some of the stuff we talked tonight and over email.
My frame of reference is
I'm standby. I'm on standby. If you guys have questions about just the.
Yeah.
my frame of
I've never
reference is
read
we
either.
read 60% of the book that the skull guy comes from. That's my frame of reference.
Ooh, this one.
We haven't even gotten to the skull person yet. Like it's not.
There you go.
I
Daisy,
never read any of the R.L. Stein books or the Christopher Pike books. I went straight to Stephen King when I started out exploring books. It was my first one, and I never looked back.
Well, it's not like
Yeah.
you missed much, but it definitely was like an education in horror.
Yeah.
But I did work in like a bookstore in college, stuff like that, so I knew who they were. And we did read some Goosebumps to Delaney when she was growing up, but she got more into Animorphs than Goosebumps.
I did like
So,
I loved Animorphs, and she wrote another series that I was really into called Making Out that took place in Maine about a family of lobster fishermen.
making out.
hmm
Okay, I have a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
never got
questions
that
about
far.
that. We're gonna get into off air. So let's take a quick break right now so that we can discuss the Fear Street trilogy.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
John, what are you looking at right now? You look like a confused puppy.
Well, I'm looking at the word, Eric.
Oh, got it.
But
Well, before we
it's
get to
got a
that,
hell
can
of
I?
a origin here.
I have a question. Have you ever been a lifeguard before?
I have, yeah.
Because that's
You
what
know he has.
that's what you
I
look
knew
like,
he
right? Like
has.
this hair. You are 100% a guy who's a lifeguard his whole life.
Mhm.
Like you're just like, this is the life, man. This is what I want. Like,
I
and then
mean,
during the off season, like
It's a good gig.
during the off season, he takes care of like the rich people's houses that only live there during the summer. Like that's how he makes it through the winter. And then it's like right back to lifeguarding.
Wait, are like the rich ladies there? Something?
Eric writes fan fiction about this Schnars.
Yeah, I think there's maybe some
Fair
rich
enough.
lady action going on there, John. I would
Alright.
believe that. Yeah. You're
I think we
rippling.
got an R.L. Stein novel on our hands here. So-
Right, just add it.
Christie, give
just-
her some red hair. You
just-
guys got a story.
Just add in a couple of twists and some
Yeah.
fucking cliffhangers, and you got it. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I love
Eric,
it.
I worked as a lifeguard while also working at the video store for
That's
like
the
2
dream.
or 3 summers. Yeah, it was the best.
I've
2
been
years of
going
my
through
life.
this like existential thing lately where I like was talking to my mom about it. Like, why didn't I work at a video store?
I tried.
Like by the
That
time I
would
guess I was
happen
working
either.
age, so many of them were out of business, and I knew I didn't want to work at like Hollywood because I'm like I don't want to work at the corporate video store. I want to work at the one where I can just put on whatever I want. I want the one that doesn't care about what I do.
We did that. That was me.
Hollywood seemed like they had standards for their employees, is what I'm trying to say, and I
Oh,
wasn't.
yeah,
I
there
was
was-
not.
you
down with
were-
that. I
Well,
can't.
they
You're,
did so much for their films. I can't tell you how many times my mom came home from Hollywood because it was what was close to the house they bought later, and it would be like not Cloverfield. It would be like Cloverdome or something, and it's like those Asylum Presents. I'm like, Mom.
Clover.
Wow,
I
that's
like it.
that's a buyer beware situation
Yeah.
in my book. You gotta be an informed consumer.
All right, John Schnars, you're something. All right, please bring us the word of the day. I was gonna call you a bronzed god, but then I felt like maybe I was going a little too hard tonight, so I decided to
That's a
pull it
little
back.
far.
I decided to pull.
Could be the name of our R.L. Stein.
You're also
fanfic
less.
novel
You're also
or-
less bronze right now, a little more ruddy. So I'm not sure that it really tracks.
I gotta.
I don't know, John. I think with that hair, you got to be in a Christopher Pike book.
Right.
Fair. It's fair.
The mysterious lifeguard. That's what it's called.
Too many feelings. Today's word, courtesy of Elizabeth, actually, comes to us from Fear Street 1666. The word is anathema.
You know, John, I think you can buy home anathemas now. Do it yourself.
That's Anathema. Anathema, 3 definitions here. Something or someone that one vehemently dislikes. Then this is a more specific, but maybe actually the one they were using in the film. A formal curse by a pope or a council of the church excommunicating a person or denouncing a doctrine.
Mm,
Uh-huh.
curse.
And then the
A
last
cur-
one.
specifically a curse.
Well, so the last one is they designate this as a sort of literary use. It just means a strong curse.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one I know. The third. Anyway, yes, I remember from classes having that in my like word bank. They say it in 1666, pretty much off the bat when she's like
Yeah, well-
walking through the thoroughfare.
And he's like giving I think it's the
Sermon,
preacher, right?
or-
Is kind of
yeah.
he's sermonizing.
It's before he's crow-eyed and like
Yeah.
evil, the
Crow-eyed.
Cyrus guy.
Yeah. So it comes to us from the ecclesiastical Latin.
Ooh,
The word
Mhm.
the word anathema meant excommunicated person.
ecclesiastical.
Yeah.
I know
So-
one of those.
John, I want
Yeah.
I want you to know, John, that I thought of that enema joke as soon as that text came through earlier, and I've been holding on to it.
You played it off really naturally, like it was
Thank
like
you.
organically in the moment.
Super wasn't.
I knew.
That was
I've known
workshopped.
long enough.
When it's
Uh,
love, you just know.
That's
You
right.
know each other.
All right, John, tell me about Fear Street.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, I think this is the first time since maybe like episode 40, like we had to go way, way back to a point where we were covering more than one movie.
Yeah, we
you
did
know,
a show where
yeah.
we did a couple of Polanski movies. We did
Oh,
the
I love that episode.
we did The Burning and Just Before Dawn. Those were like some of the that Repulsion one. I think that was probably the last time we did it.
Yeah, might have been.
Yeah.
But we're gonna try to get through 3 movies here. The good news is this is like a true trilogy.
It's like a 6
in
hour.
that-
It's a 1 6-hour movie basically.
Yeah, I was trying to. We were talking about it a little bit over email, and like, I was thinking like, could you even tell someone, you know what, just watch the middle one? Like you could. Like, there's just
Okay,
no
here's
way.
the thing. So that I discovered today. So while we were watching this, Elizabeth was saying, this feels like a TV show. Like you have like a mini series.
Yeah.
So I read an interview with the director where she was basically like, once Netflix took it over, she started looking at it as if it was some kind of weird new amalgam between movie and TV. Like I think they just threw all the rules of like structure out the window, which I kind of wish I had known beforehand because it's the source of a lot of my few complaints about it. But
Oh, listen, when I saw 1994 Part 2, I was like, Eric's just going to shit himself. Like, he literally is just going to be like, I can't, and like turn it off and walk away.
yeah, I think it helped me to have you Sherpa me through that.
It is like a classic trilogy, though, and I mean, we are going to get to like what actually happens in the movie, but it's like Star Wars, right? Like, you couldn't tell someone just watch Empire Strikes Back. Like,
Okay.
what?
Yeah, it's
like,
very
that
much
would
just it's
basically
very much a
nonsense.
chapter in a book or something.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't know. At first, I resisted it. I was like, I don't know, trilogy, like blah blah. But in any event, so the plot here, and like, so they do work backwards. I'm gonna try to do this quickly, but God knows. 94.
Wait, we should
78.
Spoiler. Like we
Well,
need to.
Yeah,
I'm
we
making
should
it-
throw
I'm
down a
making a
general
ruling.
spoiler.
Spoiler.
But like, all right, I don't think we're gonna give away anything.
Well,
at
I've
least in the
seen all
next-
3 movies, John. And I understand about 35% of it, so I think it's okay.
Stop it. It's not that, whatever. I don't think it's that complicated, but I don't like if you watch the trailers to all 3 movies, I feel like they spoil like the
Yeah.
shit out of these
Yeah.
things. So I don't feel that bad. But so 94, 78, 1666, you have this town originally called Union in 1666 that in the 1994, which is the first one because they work backwards in time, has been split into Sunnyvale and Shadyside.
Right. Think Parks and Rec.
Shadyside, I mean, I don't get that reference. because I didn't
Eagleton.
watch the show,
Eagleton.
but, yeah.
Pawnee.
But Sunnyvale is like the rich town. It's coded pretty heavily as like white, and
It's the white town.
wealthy.
Yeah.
And then Shadyside is like, it's not necessarily that it's coded non-white. It's just coded as like poor and like
Shadyside is like gay and broke.
yeah. Well, exactly. It's where
Well,
all the,
it's
like,
definitely more.
nice-
It's definitely
it's
more.
just like
people
the-
are.
Like there
Oh,
are
sorry.
white people, but it's definitely much more diverse.
It's the wrong side of the tracks, right? It's like where everyone who like can't fit in, quote unquote, in Sunnyvale, like
Yeah.
kind of lives. In any event, so you have Sunnyvale as like this thriving community, and Shadyside is just like everybody, like bad shit's happening all the time. People are like drinking too much. I mean, drugs maybe. I don't know. They don't really reference drugs, but the movie opens at the Shadyside Mall. There is a killer who murders a bunch of people, and I'm trying to think how they bring it. Then we meet the main character. Her name, and oh god, I'm gonna forget.
Dina.
Dina. Yeah, we were just talking about Dina.
John, I think you're going to need to go a little broader view of this, my friend. Than
Well, so
the movie opens.
but basically like that. Then now you transition to Dina. Dina becomes effectively the main character for all 3 of them. Like she is the sort of hero whose arc we're following through the trilogy. She has a girlfriend named Sam who has left Shadyside with her mom during a divorce.
Yeah, she's an
and moved
ex
to
at the
Sunnyvale.
point we picked the movie up.
Yeah, and you've got Dina's brother Josh. Those are kind of like the main 3 characters. The first film really follows them trying to unwind what the hell's going on with this murder at the mall.
Because
That
there's also been a history of like really insane slasher style and supernatural like murderings in this
So I
town.
think Derry, Indiana, and like the kid that's like super obsessed with like what happened.
Or
Like
Derry,
that's the Josh kid
Derry,
here,
Maine, I think it's Maine, right? Derry, Maine.
or May, yeah.
Erie,
You
Indiana.
think Gary,
Just putting
Indiana?
it over near you guys. Sorry.
But yeah,
yeah, and so he's trying to he's like online doing like quote unquote nerd things, communicating, via text chat in 1994. But yeah, they're trying to connect that murder, which they feel like there's something weird going on, to all this other shit that's happened throughout the history of Shadyside.
right. That leads all the way back to a witch who was like murdered back in the olden times
Well, and
of
the slasher,
Ohio.
the murderer, like the guy in the skull mask who killed the people in the mall, he's like showing up still around town.
It needs to
So
be pointed out, John, Colonial Ohio.
Mhm.
are they? No, they're
It's
That
set in,
tracks.
Ohio.
it's set in Ohio.
That was the thing, right?
John.
In any
No, there was a lot made of that on the internet. The
Yes,
Colonial
that's why I'm
Ohio
saying
bit.
it. Yeah.
So I mean, that's like the setup for the first film. Eventually it leads them what they come to interact with like this overall history, which tees up the second film. The second film all takes place
Right.
at Camp Nightwing,
They
where one of the other main characters that you meet at the end of the first film, it actually like follows her through her story and interaction with that past. And then the final film is sort of Dina learning the truth of Union and the towns that have
right.
become
What
Sheepshead
starts
Citadel.
out as like just a murder leads this group of friends to go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out the origin of the curse that's like curse shade, like discovering there is a curse. They
Well, it's
decide
called,
there's a
like-
curse, then they're like, okay, then they're just they're Scooby Dooing, trying to figure it out, and that leads us back through the timeline. And then as we see each movie, things happen in each film going back. They're recontextualized things we've already seen. So like that's
and
really why they're so tied together.
They know, like it's teed up very heavily. Like they know this story of Sarah Fear. There's like a rhyme. There's like it's like long. It has like a lot of different stanzas to it, and so there's like all these like parts to like who Sarah Fear is and like what she's gonna do to you and things. And so you see some of that stuff unfold at least in the first film. But yeah, that's what ultimately like becomes the through line for the entire trilogy.
Love it. I could have done that quicker, but I appreciate the effort, John.
Don't you know the girl that got cast as Sarah Fear was like, yes, and then like got the script and was like, what motherfucker? Like she said it for like 30 seconds.
Right.
She's and yeah, like
You're then you
barely,
turn into this other actress who's gonna make a lot more money than you.
No, you
The
go
end.
away. Like we
Right.
don't see you in reflections or anything.
No,
And
you don't
then
have.
we
No,
flash
you
at
don't.
the end.
Yeah, you don't have to come to set. It's fine. We're wrapped. We're good.
Your hand is a key part of this whole thing.
All right. All right. We got to move it along here. Casey, what do you think?
I enjoyed this quite a bit. And I think it's a discussion we have to have as far as top 10 goes. If we're going to vote for these separately or as a trilogy and whatnot, because as a trilogy, the movies are okay. I appreciate that they got a R rating and they stuck to it and they went for it. There's some nice gore and stuff in here, and there's a lot of elements of these different movies that I really like. However, I think it as a whole, the way this came out as kind of a special event, the way they shot these back to back, released them all at once as an event, I think it was pretty awesome. And I thought it was really great. And I think the whole package came together really well too. And I think the whole package really outweighs the individual flicks. Because like you were saying before, you can't just tell somebody, go just watch the second movie or whatever, just watch 1978. You don't need all of them. You need all of them for the whole experience.
Could
and
you
I thought
imagine-
that was really cool.
Like, could you imagine just watching the third one?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, the
Like, what
first
the hell?
the first 50 minutes of the third, like we should talk because structurally they are like they have their own setting, they have
mean,
their own like story.
It really feels like 6 episodes of a series. That's what it feels like. 6 hour, almost perfectly hour, 50 minute to hour long episodes.
Yeah.
Like, especially
Yeah,
that
it
last
definitely
one.
could have been an HBO series or something, or another Netflix TV series. Easy.
Elizabeth, what do you think?
I'm obsessed. I love it so much. I've watched it all the way through. I'm not even gonna. That makes me sound very sad because like it's like 6 hours the whole thing.
It's a lot.
It's my new like Ken Burns Civil War. I'm gonna put it on in the background all the time. Like I just love it.
I think wasn't Civil War like 20 hours long though?
Right. I would take more.
I
of
love
this
that
movie.
analogy,
I just love the like Monster Collective kind of motif. The way they structure it. Obviously like Monster Squad comes to mind pretty heavily with it. But I mean, they cover like if you've seen more than 5 horror movies, you feel like so meta watching this because like it's just like reference on top of reference. And I mean, my favorite probably being the first kill. That's very much an homage to Scream. Yeah, there's so much to get into it. Like my thoughts just like scatter. It was amazing. I was a huge fan, I think we've established, of the Fear Street series. Obviously, I mean, I think I speak for a large portion of the audience today in saying that queer representation in this has been just awesome to see because you never, in a million years we're gonna get that. Even in a Christopher Pike book, like they were doing coke. There were no lesbians. It wasn't like don't go
Here,
crazy.
these two same-sex people.
They were alien ferrets at the end, but nobody was homosexual.
Well, and I
like,
think it also does justice to the fact that like in the 90s, like it would have caused also some trouble for them. And it
Right.
does, like with
Yeah.
the, you know, with some of these
I
other
appreciate the
characters.
way it was handled all the way around, and I
Yeah.
like that they really made me come around on blonde girl. I keep wanting to. Hannah's the last movie. What her
Sam?
name is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sam?
yeah, Sam.
Because in the first movie, her
Ooh.
acting is not good. It's not
No,
great.
I don't know that her acting's good at all, but I was in love with
Yeah.
her by the end of it. I for real was like, ugh, like this girl. And like I love Dina. She's so good and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
committed to like every line. I love her delivery. But then by the end of it, I mean, I already love Dina. I was like so into Sam. By the time she was dancing around the campfire and the witchy one, I was into it. That was good.
Drawing her name in your notebook.
They should have just found another 29-year-old to play Sam.
Well, you feel the age difference for
should.
sure. Like I'm
Yeah.
curious how old the one you're talking about, Elizabeth.
I want
is.
to look it up.
I'm
But yeah,
gonna
it
guess
was
like
all
19.
it all landed with me. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, like, overall, seeing any project that is representing the points of view and the diversity that this film kind of has, and is giving us, that ends with, I mean, spoiler alert, the character literally shielding themselves. Can I say this yet?
Oh, at the very
With
very
the
end.
books.
100% sure. Oh, yeah. That's like a minor spoiler.
Okay,
Like,
okay,
that's
cool.
fine.
Then I'm going to talk about it for a second, because we literally get to see a queer character with her armor is young adult Pulp Fiction, like the actual books with the real covers, and the enemy is the patriarchy, and good is evil. Like it's very heavy-handed, and I'm fine with it. And like she wins because she like
It was a nice
uses
it was a nice touch.
her. What's that?
It was a nice touch for sure.
It was good. It was
Yeah.
good. I
Well,
could
it
go
was
on.
a callback to the very first
It
scene
sure
in the movie.
was. Yes,
So, yeah.
It also, John, was the books that they used for that shield. I paused and looked like 3 times. Are the books that the characters' names are taken from, and that the references that we get from the books that are used in the movie.
Chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
it's like
That's
it's
cool.
like wrong number and like.
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
don't
right
know.
out of the gate in the first movie, you see that store with all the covers, and it's
Yeah.
just like, all right, this is what we're doing. I got it. It helps
I
orient you to
think
what
it
we're
was
doing
like
here.
I get sports.
Right.
When I saw that, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, yes, I am in. I am in for this. And like,
I love that.
But I was like, okay.
I love that. John, what'd you think?
Yeah, I ultimately ended up really enjoying this as well. I don't know that it's great, you know? It's not like classic cinema or anything, but
Mm.
I've been thinking about this a bunch. I like it probably the same way I like or even love Stranger Things, which is to say, like, I'm not expecting sort of like high art, and it's not that, and it like never was trying to be that, and it kind of like telegraphs that from the outset. I think we should have a conversation about whether or not this is starter horror. I actually think it's like too aggressive to be starter horror, actually.
I think kids might. Here's my counterpoint to that, though, John. Don't you think in some way kids are exposed to so much more now, so much quicker, that maybe this would be starter horror? Like,
Some of the kill sequences in this are actually like
Just
well, but
top-notch.
when you say
Like,
starter
they're-
horror, like I started watching horror at 10 years old and watched Halloween 2, and like it jacked me
but
up.
exactly. No, but we were watching like think of those movies now, like
Yeah.
Arachnophobia and well, that's like PG-13. But
I
So-
don't know that the bread slicer scene
Exactly.
could
Well,
count
listen, but here's my point: is I think sensibilities may have changed, and wouldn't necessarily
Maybe,
know that.
I don't know. I just like I always like my wife is like not a good benchmark, but like if there's like a very good movie that's like a little scary, I can like get her to watch it and she will appreciate it. If there's a movie like this where it's like, you know,
Super
fun,
violent, yeah.
like a romp, and then has like some really gruesome kill scenes,
It is,
there's
yeah.
no fucking way. She'll be like she won't be able to sleep for like a week.
what's interesting is
So-
like my dad's fine with it as long as it's mobsters. It cannot be like
Scary.
slashers,
Yeah.
serial killer type thing.
I mean, so the net for me is like it's really well done. I think I probably appreciated it more because of like the feat that they accomplished, which is creating and releasing this trilogy over 3 weeks. Is, you know, it's just a really really smart idea. Like I'm actually like surprised Netflix hasn't done something like this before. I do think it requires like the exact right material to like be able to get this right. I didn't know much about Fear Street. Elizabeth sent a very helpful article that kind of explained some of the references here, because it's not
influences, yeah.
it's not even like they took one book and turned it into these movies.
It's a true like mishmash of the whole mythos, basically.
But it's also like a smudgy memory. It's so smart how they did it, because they
Well,
picked out
that's-
specifics, but no plot points and no.
I feel
it's just
like,
interesting.
and that's sort of where I was going, is like I feel like I like understand what Fear Street is,
Mm.
even if I don't know what any of the narratives are, because like
Mhm.
I saw this movie and this movie just like felt like it had a true feeling. It just like had an emotional impact to it. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
it does.
I had a really fun time with it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely would credit Elizabeth with softening my take on the pacing of this thing a little bit, because like by the time I'm in particular started bugging me about 45 to 50 minutes into the second movie, when I'm like, I want to see people murdered at this camp. Why is nobody being murdered? Like that one's a little backloaded with the action, and there's just so much stuff in there that I didn't necessarily care about. But
There's so much fucking plot in these movies.
there is. This is
And
so.
like I didn't even.
This is
get
what I
into-
will say.
There's a lot.
I'm pretty much on board with everybody here. Like having not had the nostalgia and just kind of coming into it, just really kind of fresh. It is very cool. The event nature of it, the 3 movies over 3 weeks, that part of it's really cool. Everything to do with like the packaging, I love the posters, the they're doing this really cool vinyl release. She got the guy. She hired the guy Marco Beltrami who did the Scream soundtrack, which is very interesting to me because like I look at 90s horror soundtracks, I'm like, that's fucking horseshit. Like that, all I think of when I think of 90s soundtracks are licensed tracks. Even as a kid, I remember being like, man, what if Scream had the soundtrack of like an 80s movie? That would be cool. But the soundtrack here is really cool. Just I love the style of all of it. It's really, and I really love the idea that we just made almost like a Stephen King-esque universe out of all of these killers. I love the little montage they continually show of each killer in their actual time, like murdering somebody, and they keep going back to it as like a refresher of like who all these people are. That stuff is so much fun. I will say that the plot of this movie is a little like when you're driving and you see somebody in an old ass pickup truck and shit is piled in the back like 6 feet higher than it should be, and it's all being held up by some rickety bungee cords that look like they're going to snap at any second. Like here, spoiler alert, the truck makes it to its destination and everything is fine. But when you're in it, you're a little like, whoa, like you're a little like not, you're behind them in traffic and you're just fingers crossed, man, that we get to the destination here. And I will say like, there's also so much of it, right? And I had to take it in a way that I wouldn't, just with the way my life is, I had to watch it in kind of a stilted manner. I kind of broke up each movie into almost like 2 sections. But I had a decent amount of trouble following it. Like we were just finishing up the 3rd one today. And finally, at the point where we were getting a bunch of those info dumps at the end where they're finally connecting all the dots, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I get it. It's just a lot, but it's just
I didn't
fun.
think it was that like I didn't think it was
Well,
that hard to know what was going on.
I told him. So when think about it, if you're watching like 30 minutes over 4 days, I get it. I'm like, well, yeah, it was like half a week ago, dude. When he's like, wait, when did this happen? I was like, last Tuesday.
Straight up, if I was not watching these with her, I would be here right now being like, I feel like I can't talk about this movie right now. But
it's where they were able to like take some liberties because they came out so close together by assuming that people would remember. I mean, look, like same with Star Wars, right? Like if you watch that first Star Wars and then you need to remember shit from the first one.
What I'll say is that these movies win by, from my understanding of it, being like really capturing that trashy, fun, young adult thing. Like, you know, it doesn't get any better than the names Good and Fear, slightly spelled differently. I was busting jokes about that shit the entire time because it's so funny. But
I have
like,
to ask you though, Eric, because you didn't have closed caption on until like kind of late in the game. Did it make a difference to you when you saw the spelling? Were you like, well, it's academic?
it
now.
made me
Like,
laugh
I get it.
more. It made me laugh more because that's pure R.L. Stein.
They show it to you like with Good because he's both the
That's
Good is
true, right.
Good is the like family in
Oh, and
Sunnyvale.
Fear's on the
who's-
lot.
Like when
you
you
see it
read
right
these,
there.
because when you read the books, I have these moments where it's like, I picture R.L. Stein like kicking back in his chair, like he wrote something he's really proud of, and he just like cracks his knuckles. He's like, yeah, that's right. And that's what I picture when I see the names Good and Fear, that he just was like inspired. I love this.
Got it.
But no, I think like honestly, it's just fun, and they really go for it. Like they pick a lane and they commit to it, and that's a shitload of fun. And I think to your point, John, in the process of doing that, they also do a lot of really amazing modern feeling things with representation and emotional character arcs, and they really do hit legit emotional moments, which I think that's such a trope of screenwriting, right? Like planting those seeds and then trying to sow them later, that a lot of movies just don't hit. And so the fact that they actually do, I think, is impressive, and I think is a huge, like, this is a lot. It's a very ambitious project, and I think like it's a success. I just think like it's helpful to know what you're getting into, and that is these aren't, I wouldn't even call them movies. Like, honestly, I'd really think of it more like a miniseries to help. Or if you're like me and you're kind of a stickler for like, I want to know what the plot structure is, you're going to be bummed out because it doesn't.
I don't know. I would disagree with that only insofar as I was joking or saying before, like you couldn't like recommend someone just watch the third film, but like they do.
I just think you need to divorce yourself a little if you're like me and you like a clear structure. You need to step back from it a little.
But I mean, look, again, I hate to, I should come up with another trilogy that I can reference other than Star Wars, but it's sort of like, again, you can start with Empire Strikes Back. I think there is like, it follows rough 3-act structure, but like,
you can watch these movies in a circle over and over. Like, it doesn't really matter like where you start. You just have to see them all.
Yes,
well,
yeah,
it does
that's a good
matter.
point.
Yeah, I mean, but like my point was like,
right.
They did at least this. I think the first and the second one hang together very, very well. The third one is the hardest because like it's basically the first half is the 1666 stuff, and then the whole second half of the film.
The interesting thing about that is, like that is to me the most egregious structure-wise, but I think the 1666 is my favorite part of all of it. I think it's the best done part.
But they obviously wanted to like lounge in that area and live in the world. Like there was no reason to have as much space taken up by that time period, but I'm glad they did.
But they also needed to. I was very curious how the hell they were going to resolve the stuff in 1994 if they were going to do a movie in 1666. But like the obvious answer is like you only do half the movie in 1666 and then you come back.
I would have been fine though because
they were playing Oasis in 1994. I cried twice. I cried 2 watch throughs.
I hadn't heard Oasis in a long time, so I almost cried.
I was like, ugh, stop it with the girl from that TBS show, one of the boys or whatever, the nurse.
Yes.
What was her name? I can't
She was also on Ozark.
That's right. Ozark was what.
Well, the important thing is I was watching through these movies, and we watched them as they on the Fridays that they came out. We watched the 1994, 1978. I'm stoked. I'm fired up. I'm pretty cool. We get to see a shitload of slashers. All I could think of is what the hell are they going to do with 1666 at the time before coming out? So it gave it kind of a bit of a mystery. I'd say when it first switched over halfway through the movie back to 94, I was probably a little taken aback. It's like, oh, that feels kind of cheap. But at the same time, like John was saying, they got to have time to resolve everything that was happened. So there's nothing else they could have done.
I think that you could have done it either way. Like, I think you could have made 3 self-contained movies that each one adds context to the previous. But I just didn't. I wasn't expecting the way they did it. I think that's the part you have to.
That's the difference between like, because I've been thinking about like, Friday the 13th. Each of those films like starts and ends. Like they're like at least when you see the end of Friday the 13th.
Eric's wheels are just like.
No, I know, but like just grant me like a little license here. In like Friday the 13th 3, at least there's like plausibly you're like, it's over now.
Yeah, there aren't hanging threads. Like
yeah. This thing is, again, it's like Star Wars. Like it ends and like nothing has been resolved at the end of the first one. They've only teed up all of the shit to come in the later films.
So what do you?
Well, I think Casey's right because he ultimately was saying earlier, like the whole here is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
For sure. Like.
So there's
like Schnars is saying, he can't think of anything. He doesn't want to. He wants to think of another trilogy other than Star Wars to refer to. But you don't see trilogies packaged like this.
So even though it's hard to discern, like, do you guys have a favorite entry?
Oh God, yes, but I don't even know how to explain it. Okay, I want to live in 78. Like I love the world they built there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and the soundtrack fucks. Like it is so good. It's just everything about it is so good. So I think tonally I like that one the most from a storytelling perspective and like actual like artistry. I think the 66 is my favorite.
That's pretty fair. I think
But God, 94. Like I feel bad. Like I really feel bad for not
see,
putting 94 somewhere. Like
I think 94 is probably my least favorite. Not in a bad way, but just if I had to rank them.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick one, I would pick the middle one because it is like the cleanest movie in and of its own.
And
you
I
know,
love
like,
that girl. That actress.
Casey, how about
there's
you?
only like 10 minutes on each side that are not film related.
Casey,
Yes.
favorite? Did you say already?
No, I was most impressed, I think, by 94 because
Interesting.
that being the kickoff to the series, I just felt it was really cool. And like, that's where you see them go for it. And by the time I got done with that first movie, I was excited for the rest.
Okay.
The other ones,
so
I wasn't quite as excited.
94, we have to talk about this specific scene in 94 where they decide, quote unquote, decide that what they need to do is kill their friend to break the curse or whatever. So these movies do a thing that like in having this conversation with Elizabeth, I realized this is a thing I've been complaining about fairly often in the last couple of years that I now
you never complain about anything.
But no, here's the thing, but I can now identify exactly what it is. And it's a thing that you see much more in modern movies than you ever used to see. Like this is a very new thing. It is this form of screenwriting, particularly in movies that have supernatural bends, where characters are able to immediately intuit very clearly defined rules about this supernatural thing with absolutely no evidence, and everyone around them immediately just goes, sign me up.
Yep.
Hold on. I want to stop you because they do explain the death thing. Or
Right.
it's at least given.
No, but they explain it, but it is a character making a leap based on like tangential evidence. So to then be like, cool, I'm cool with you murdering me, high school kid. Like to just be all for it and for everybody to be like,
First of all,
no,
she's 29 years old.
what I need is a little bit of
She's a
skepticism.
grown ass woman.
What I need is a little bit of skepticism
it's
from
C.
someone
Berman.
ever.
So C. Berman, they're like talking about how C. Berman's the only one
They
who's ever
always
survived.
they have to say C. Berman every time.
Well, it's because I mean, again, like this is like spoiler.
Oh, we gotta
like,
talk about that too, because that was not a twist because it's obvious from the moment she's on screen. It doesn't. How was that a twist?
They set it up. She said my sister was dead 2 weeks later, and then it shows the redhead.
But
it
they
shows-
cut
least,
from
like,
a
a
redhead
little-
character to a redhead character, and I go, that's her.
She doesn't really have red hair.
Oh, yeah.
C.
I
Berman.
agree. I think it's at least like a plus. I wasn't 100% sure until later in the movie, but
I didn't
you're
even
right. I mean,
second
it's
guess it
kind of
until
obvious.
Elizabeth told me. She's like, "Oh, you just guessed it." I'm like, "Guess what? Isn't that just her?" Like, I didn't pick up that I was supposed to be like second guessing.
I
So
picked up that it would have been the redhead girl myself, but watching it as a whole as a family, I can tell you the family was debating it large part way through.
I
On
didn't
which
know
one
it was
she
a
Well,
gonna
debate.
here's why I know that they were trying to thread that needle.
No, you're right. You're definitely
C.
right.
Berman is OCD. She's got her little clocks and all the like locks and shit she does, and which is typical in these like, what happens after the slash occurred? These flannel girls, how do they live? So she's doing that, and then immediately when we get the flashback and we see, I can't even remember what the girl's name is. Not C. Berman, not the redhead. There are too many characters.
Weren't they
It was
both? Aren't they
Cindy
both
and
C. Berman?
Cindy, there you go.
Cindy.
Yes. So we see Cindy and her boyfriend cleaning the outhouse, and she's like really cleaning and being like, "Oh, the spot won't come out. Oh, it's a spot in my shirt." And like I thought she was like, "Oh, this is our OCD."
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
Bad.
her name's Cindy Berman, and the other
And
one's named
Cindy
Ziggy.
Berman, yeah.
So it's like,
There you
Eric may have been just super genius.
I think
on
I'm
this
just a
one, but
savant. Yeah, I'm a movie savant, John.
I think
I
you
was
might have
literally
not
gonna
been
say
paying
you're an
attention to
idiot.
their names, and then,
I mean, okay, I
Yeah.
guess you could put it like that.
yeah.
I'll be honest, I used Eric's logic. It went from redhead to redhead, so I just kind of assumed.
But no, in any event, like Eric, you're told like this movie is full of things like that though, where like
These are just little screenwriting things that bother me because all it takes is you writing a little line in where a character goes, "Are you sure we should murder her?" And I'm good. I'm done. I'll tap out on this
Well,
argument.
can I-
Like,
look, either way, can you have the EpiPen next to you when you're murdering her?
yes.
she had like
She's like,
7
"Where's the
epi-
pen?" Suddenly, it's the fucking Three Stooges. Like, where's this fucking pen?
Can I give you my biggest what the fuck
Please.
from these movies? So it's 300 years. We're in like deep spoiler territory. They've generationally had to give names. So like minimum, we're talking like 30. I don't know, like I guess 20 names. Like depending on how you want to define a generation, it's like 20 to 25 names. There's only like 5 killers. So like what happened to the rest of them?
Yeah, that
Good question.
that's
Like,
my
we did
biggest
have
gripe
some
too.
flashes of killers they didn't go deeper on. I wanted to see the one. It's like blink if you miss it. Like which one was it? The somebody guts girls.
Yeah,
There was
there's
a
like
handful.
the shame killer. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know more about that kid with the baseball bat.
Dude,
Dude,
Good
baby,
Lord.
baby murderer. Yeah, I want more.
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Yeah.
So I do have a
Baby man.
question. Like, what was everybody's favorite killer?
Baby man. I
The
liked.
baby killer was cool.
I think the ghost dude too. Like, I just love that
The
costume.
skull.
And she
I love
said it was
Nightwing Killer.
Nightwing
Yeah.
Killer was pretty dope.
That's great.
She said too that she had the actor who played Skull Dude model his physical performance after Ghostface, like how Ghostface was clumsy and was constantly like kind of falling over and tripping
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I really like that Nightwing killer too, and I thought it was cool as hell because we get introduced to him in that first movie.
I
And
did
he's got
too.
that cool burlap sack
Here's the
and
thing.
stuff, and we get to see how he gets it.
yeah, but here's the thing in 78. Get to that this is the same thing as like Friday 13th Part 3.
That was
Get
totally
to that mask.
a reference to Friday the 13th.
But I'm saying, get to
the that.
Get to the mask faster. Don't make me
No,
wait
no,
an
but
hour
I
and
think
10
that's like
minutes.
a reference to the franchise Friday the 13th.
Okay,
and that,
but
like, it
wait,
didn't
I'm
come
saying
immediate-
wait
like, till
40
later.
minutes or a half. Like, it doesn't have to be over an hour until I can see
But
this
like
mask.
Eric, he was like still scary even
Because
without the
before he
mask
puts
on.
the mask on, he's just some wiener teenager. Like, it's
But
different.
hold on, every 30 seconds, you guys didn't he kind of look like Robert Pattinson? I felt like I was like, God, this guy is like so.
He
like,
had a weird face that changed.
aggressive
That,
looking, and then he'd like turn a certain way, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
or he's Robert Pattinson.
I was more hung
Exactly.
up on the fact that he needed to wash his hair.
He really
it
did.
was real crazy. Yeah. Favorite moment of all 3 movies? Does anybody have an answer for that?
Oh, that's a hard one to cut down. So, like, favorite moment I would have to base around the kills was that girl in that first movie with that bread slicer. I hadn't seen that before,
Yeah,
and it was
that's pretty
awesome.
Mm.
For me,
My
the
parents had a bakery and had that. It's almost the exact same bread slicer. You know.
did you always
Oh,
did you always
man.
wonder what would happen, John, if you slipped?
Dude, those things are deadly. It's basically just like knives that go up and down really, really
That's
fast.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked when they dropped Moon Age Daydream in '78 when Ziggy's getting all her stuff together.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was good too.
I mean, the music was like there were times where it was a little heavy-handed, and then there were
Especially in
times.
'94.
Well, the '94 was really bad, but
Yeah.
then like Bowie came on, and I was like, "This is
I know.
great!" Like, what are we
I
gonna
love
do
it so
here?
much.
Yeah.
I
Hey, you
for-
guys, when was the last time you like fully sat down and listened to the Sophie B. Hawkins song "Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover"? Because I did the other day. Chills. Sit down and listen to it. Like, listen till it fades out. It's like, oh my God, this song is like an experience. Like, it's seriously like, I was like kind of tearing up and like.
For me,
it's
the
jam.
transcendent moment, like in the trilogy, for me is in Part 3, towards the end, when they're all in the mall, and we're having our final showdown, and it's like you get clear, like Monster Squad moments where they're sort of surrounded by these killers, and I love the fact that like the killers are sort of out of time, out of body. They're like specters almost. I really love that aspect of it, but just a lot of the tension created around their whole plan. You got all this like neon paint everywhere. These moments in particular where they are banking on the fact that the killers are not going to smell them or whatever are really tense. I mean, they're some of
Yeah.
the most tense moments in the whole thing.
Well,
Yeah.
like this is one of my other like. So where are all the other killers? That was like my one thing. The other one is like, are we sure these killers wouldn't just have like stabbed a bunch of other people? Like they were like only gonna stab her. Like that was.
I
that
feel like
was
that
another
rule
one of
was
those weak
developed
stuff.
late
Well,
in the game.
And again, well,
yeah,
no,
they're
but
using
again,
it
John,
being used as a weapon.
but again, John, that is like this is what I'm saying. That is like a plot point that is very important because if you're wrong, your ass is dead. That they
Okay, so I
just
feel like in creative writing, it's called the magic button.
Right,
And it's
like,
like the
they
rule
just-
that you create to mean anything.
they
and make
pull a
anything
bunch
happen.
of disparate like facts together and they just decide this is a rule. No one questions it, and then it just turns out it's true. And it's like,
Well,
okay,
it does. It happens at other parts in the movie, right? So if you remember in '78, again, big spoilers here, but Nick and Ziggy are like in that place, and the Nightwing Killer comes in. Nightwing Killer walks right by Nick. So there is this element where I was like, huh, maybe it just doesn't kill. Maybe it doesn't kill the Sunnyvale people. It only kills the Shady Side people. And that's what I thought the curse was. It was like the killers just kill Shady Side people. But then, like, to get all the way to, oh, he's using it just to kill me specifically. Eric, this is me agreeing with you that there was like
You
a
know,
lot of
John,
cheating
it's a
going-
real Zoomer thing to think the killer only cares about you. It's pretty
There
meta.
you go. Yeah. That was a
Um,
comment by Lee Janiak.
Lee Janet.
Yeah.
Janiak.
Hey, so was it because he made the deal with it? Big spoiler. Sorry, Nick, young eyebrowed Nick.
Solomon. Solomon Good.
You mean 78
Yes.
Nick? That's a
Well,
completely different ethnicity from modern day
78
Nick.
Yeah. Well, because he's the one who
Yeah.
was like the firstborn who was like doing all the devil.
You mean like Armenian Nick, not American?
Ziggy's Nick.
Yeah.
What
Yes,
is
we
he
know
on?
what you're talking about.
What's
Carry
his
on.
name?
I'm just
Um,
being a dick.
I forgot what I was gonna say about him.
Oh shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh no,
You-
was he able to bring Ziggy back because he's like in with the devil,
That's
or were we
kinda
supposed
what
to believe
it
that
is.
CPR fixes stab wounds?
No, I think
Personally.
that's that was another
Yeah.
one that I think he was able to. Yeah, I think that was my read on it. Was he
Well,
was
which
able to
I
bring
was,
her back
which
through
I'm good with
normals.
because it retcons how she survived that movie, which makes
Yeah,
no sense when you
same.
watch it.
Yeah.
Dang.
I did
I would
really
like to
love the finale of that movie. The second one, the imagery of the girls kind of mimicking that Renaissance painting there, like with their reaching out
Mm.
for each other. Like,
Sisters.
Yeah. I really love the scene when we found out that this camp just dumped their houses into the cave. That blew
Yeah.
my mind.
that's some real 70s like action park shit, Casey.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah, it definitely felt Goonies.
But it did make that scene with those girls down there trying to climb out of it and stuff and knowing what they're climbing through and everything. It did add an extra touch tension
Yeah.
to it, which was nice, and it gave it a good laugh.
I mean, you could. We're actually like. I mean, we have a little time, but we're kind of running a little late here. But like, I'm actually glad, Schnars. I was resistant, but I'm glad that you won the argument of doing all three of these movies at once because I think they would have been difficult to do whole shows on one at a
I
time.
don't think you could talk about
Yeah.
much with
Yeah.
one at a time. Yeah.
The last plot point question: could that tree have lived in the mall?
Right.
That bugged the shit out of me.
That was
Okay.
changed.
That,
That
like-
tree was also 300 years old.
that,
by the way.
like,
So the
uh,
only other instance of this I've ever seen was like in Frank Lloyd Wright's like I mean major pieces of architecture. Was the Shady Side Mall really that like we've got to preserve, we're gonna do it. We're gonna
Right.
build our whole structure around this tree.
John, you mean that Game of Thrones Pangea ass tree that's grown
Uh-huh.
in the middle of that mall?
Yeah.
The weirwood. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
Good one.
question, John. That's a good question. I was very confused by the town map and like where all this shit was. Like, I'm not even gonna get into it. I'm not.
I
good
have a
with direction.
fan made Shady Side map I'll lend you that I
Please.
think is more accurate.
Please, yeah. Were you
I had
saying
co-
that some of the books had maps,
No, none of the books did. Fun fact though,
or there was a poster or something that you could get that was a
you're
map?
talking about that thing that I'm talking about. Yeah, it's on Etsy. It's like a
Oh, okay.
like
It's not.
somebody drew it.
It's
It's
not
not
official.
legit.
I mean,
That's
it's
not-
it's constructed from. I wish I had who to credit. It's awesome, but it's built from like the actual like way they talk about the town. But no, it's not.
Because if
They
I
didn't
was
have a phone
into,
map,
because
it's
if I
like-
was into something like that as a kid, and then could get that map, it would be my favorite thing.
I would. It would be
like-
my prized possession.
You're
but
talking like I can draw a pretty
my God.
detailed Game of Thrones map right now.
I'm such a sucker for like gimmicks and like novelty things. Like so, they every once in a while would put these books out. They would either do like a double issue where it was like super chiller because it's like October or something, and I'd be like, yeah, because it's like 100 extra pages, or like once a year they would do like the best friend was one where the girl, the thing about her was like her name was like Jenny and she had a purple butterfly tattoo on her shoulder or something, and they would give you the rub-on tattoo like in the book,
nice.
or the betrayal where there was like a locket was at the center of the story. They freaking, it was like the puffy case like VHS that would have like a weird trinket in it, like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
gave you the
yeah.
necklace.
I love
was-
that.
Dude,
This is
where's
where
that shit now? I wish
These
it-
were girl books. Like it was not.
Yeah,
they
no,
were
when
not
you
being
say
marketed
that-
we
to
answered the
boys.
question.
Yes, girl books. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, I love it. Would you recommend the Fear Street trilogy? I'm gonna need my top 10 list for sure. John, what do you think?
I'm gonna say yes.
Elizabeth,
Hell yes.
Casey.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm-
especially the whole trilogy.
I'm definitely gonna say yes. You got to watch it as a whole thing for sure.
Only the second one. No, I'm kidding.
Just watch the third one and then you tell me what you think it's about. That's what I want to know. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the Fear Street trilogy. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
End of summer blues got you down? Well, you're in luck, because here comes the Chuck. Chucky's back.
I'm new and improved.
No, you're dead. We killed you. Wrong again, wimp.
A haircut ain't regulation, soldier.
Regulate this.
Child's Play 3, rated R. Starts Friday, August 30th at theaters everywhere.
I'm Ray Wise from Twin Peaks, and you are listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. It doesn't look like Joe did Question Tuesday on Instagram, so I guess we have no questions this week.
Uh-oh.
Weird. Feels weird. All right, John, I looked at my top 10. Breaking news. I'm bumping everything from 2 down. So I did have Werewolves Within at 2, Saint Maud at 3, The Stylist at 4. I'm bumping that. So Fear Street is going to be number 2 so far.
The trilogy?
The trilogy goes in.
We'll
is
do.
what you're
I'm
saying.
down with trilogy, yeah, and then then
Okay.
I still have Promising Young Woman as my number 1.
It's definitely like we're stretching the rules on the top 10 here. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like,
You're the one who brought
But-
it up, bro. You were the one who was like fighting for it on the text.
you know what? I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. I'm uncomfortable, but that is what we're gonna do.
Because if you make me do any individual movie, I don't know that I would put them on the list, John.
No, totally agree.
Like,
Hey, after the
We're-
last
we're
2
on the same
years,
page.
after the last 2 years, we're in unprecedented times. So
That's-
unprecedented
You know what,
things
Casey?
happen.
I like that. That's very true. Okay, couple things. Elizabeth, you are on the Plug It Up podcast with Caitlin.
From time to time, I am. Yes.
Would you like to tell people about what's going on over there right now?
Yeah. Everyone should check it out. It is the Plug It Up podcast, hosted by our fabulous friend Caitlin Grant. Happy birthday today! It's her
Yeah.
birthday.
Ooh.
But it's a feminist podcast about the monstrous menstruation trope in horror, and really has expanded in a cool way to include like most gender-related topics in horror movies from every decade. It's been so much fun. We have really gotten just amazing reception, and our fans are the best, and everyone needs to go check it out on wherever you get your podcast. You should be able to find it, but also leave us a review on iTunes.
Yes, Plug It Up, the first BGH Presents podcast. You guys just
It's
posted.
Plug It Up Pod.
You
on
guys,
socials.
yes, Plug It Up Pod. You guys just posted an interview, or by the time people hear
It
this,
will
there will
be
be
out when they.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be out tomorrow. Yes, I did. Well, Caitlin and I did sit down with Jonathan Barkan, who is the creator and director of the upcoming mental health and horror documentary, and got
That's cool.
in about. It was almost 90 minutes. It was awesome. He's a blast. He's
Yeah, and they're
a very-
running like a Kickstarter for this documentary that's like exploring the link between people who suffer or like live with mental health issues and like ways that they have used horror as like coping mechanisms, like what the connection is there.
Well, it's cool because they're talking to physicians as well and practitioners, not just fans and genre players. So I think it is hoping to make an impact in actual like mental health spaces as far as just illuminating and bringing awareness to the fact that it is a coping mechanism and not something to be wary of or stifle in,
Right.
in younger audiences, perhaps. So
I love it.
yeah.
check it
I
out.
just wanted to throw out there while we're talking about Plug It Up Pod. I've been really impressed that Caitlin is drawing in guests outside the BGH family that you've probably not heard on any of our shows before, but they're pretty prominent in that horror world. So she's doing a really good job of exposing other people in that horror fandom out there to you guys.
I'll tell you what my
Casey, you're
favorite
so right.
what my favorite part is every episode they do period facts. I am learning so much.
They're awesome. The zombie girls.
I do have 2 daughters, so it's like I feel like I probably
same.
should know some of these things.
Yeah.
And a wife. I don't know.
Someday I'll go on and talk about how old I was when I finally figured all that stuff out.
Very candid. It's very
yes.
It's real talk.
Yeah,
from
sure.
real gals
so
and
that's
guys. Anybody who wants to come.
Plug It Up on iTunes, Spotify, Plug It Up Pod on socials. And then Elizabeth, if people want to find you on social media, what are you on, like Twitter and Instagram?
So on all socials I am Final Girl Scout, and have some stuff perhaps coming out in the works soon-ish. We'll see.
And for now they can just
for now you can just enjoy me on socials.
That's right. Okay, info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We should mention before we do tweet with BGH that our hashtag, I don't know if it's still happening, Casey, but our hashtag was taken over by people speaking a language I did not understand. And I thought it was Spanish. It was a couple of BGH listeners and Caitlin pointed out that it looked like Portuguese. Then Robale, who apparently speaks Portuguese, informed me, unless he's lying to me, but he seemed really convinced that these are people like in publicly role-playing Grey's Anatomy fan fiction. And then
what?
And then if you look and then if you look at their tweets, they are interacting with accounts that are all like fake characters from the show.
Okay.
So when I went to look at SBGH earlier in the week, I was like, I can't even.
Lying to you about that? That would be fucking amazing.
It would be.
Well, he's my favorite person.
It would be, and I kind of don't care. That's my story. But because when I went to look at the hashtag early in the week, I was like, I can't find any of our tweets. Like all I see is this shit. So Casey, you're gonna have to look to see.
Wait. So these people are like Bat's Eyes by Water Cooler.
McDreamy.
Or that's not a character. Gray.
Meredith Gray.
McDreamy,
Meredith
Stanley.
Gray is a character. Yeah.
That's right. I did know what I was talking about.
Dr. Leon says, "Se você estudaste inglés, de estar falando."
Casey, the important thing is, Casey, can you find our actual BGH tweets on there before we?
Yeah, we only have 3 actual tweets.
That's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. We get a note from Adam. John, Adam has written a new In Extremis all about the Purge world.
Nice.
It's very long and thorough, as you might imagine, from Adam. He messaged me today, Eric, I'm excited for my next In Extremis. I've written a constitutional analysis of the Purge. But the best part is in the footnotes. Yes, these articles come with footnotes.
U.S. Constitution, I'm assuming?
Yes. The Purge NFFA website, which they update with almost every film, gets the following wrong. 1, the actual date of the Purge. 2, the ranking of which government officials are immune. 3, it also includes a list of suggested weapons in a constitutional amendment, ? Recommended weapons, AR rifles and handguns of caliber 6.2, as well as all bladed weaponry is recommended by the Purge constitutional amendment.
If the Purge needs someone to handle their socials or press or web presence, I'm looking for work, so they can
there you go.
Just send me an email.
So check that out, bloodygoodhorror.com. Adam never disappoints. Next up, okay. John, did you know that this weekend was Joe Bob's Jamboree at the Mahoning, I think it's called, drive-through in Pennsylvania?
I would have said Mahoning.
Mahoning?
Yeah,
Sure.
Mahoning doesn't sound right, but I'd have to look at it to figure out how.
Okay, so this was
Mahoning.
an event. It was announced last year, and I remember being like, "Oh, that could be really cool." I then started seeing pictures on social media of what basically looked like Woodstock after it rained. Like, this is the thing about drive-thrus; they're basically dirt, and then it rained a bunch, and so like, apparently, it just looked crazy to me. Like, I'm sure people had a good time. Some of the merch looked cool, but it looked really wild. And Robale wrote in a pretty extensive set report. I'm going to read it because it's pretty interesting, I think. And I really want you, John, in particular, to just...
So I'm from
take
Pennsylvania, Eric. It's like,
Oh, you are?
this is
I
it.
didn't know that.
That's, this is not so far. I actually looked, I think it was only like 2 hours, or it was less than 2 hours from where I'm currently seated. So
Oh yeah. Oh, see, like if it was 2 hours, I totally would have made a day trip. But like Pennsylvania
Yeah.
from where I am is a day drive
Yeah, yeah.
almost. Yeah. So let's see. Robel says, I attended the Joe Bob Jamboree Thursday and Friday. I didn't attend Saturday and Sunday, but met some folks who gave some updates. Here's a quick rundown. Thursday was Joe Bob doing his How Redneck Saved Hollywood show that he's been doing for a while. We had VIP tickets both days. What this meant is that we could set up chairs at the front of the stage. There were a handful of vendors. Basically, there were some people selling vinyl, some basic convention stuff, but it was pretty sparse, I guess. And then also it rained on Saturday. It rained like crazy and apparently just trashed a bunch of booths, and a bunch of people ended up just kind of packing up. And
I was gonna say, if you're outdoors trying to set up some of those booths, like those guys have extensive setups.
And this is a thing too that I've seen, like some interim conventions that are set up kind of in this in between COVID time, or people when they were planning didn't know if they could be indoors. That's like this drive-in convention thing is a thing I've seen a couple times, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Thursday after a show, they showed Smokey and the Bandit. Not my thing, but okay. The train's coming through, John. Friday was the Mutant Film Festival. They showed Tennessee Gothic and Loss Prevention. I have not heard of either of these movies. They showed short. Oh, he mentioned that they were showing short films in a circus tent all weekend. That was 120 degrees.
Oh, jeez.
He says that in his email.
Circus tent in July it's a tough look.
Right. Elizabeth's computer died. I'm just texting her. Let's see. Friday was a crazy weather day. It was in the 90s, and then it rained. So his other large point he makes is that they definitely sold too many tickets, according to him, and that at some point on Friday and Saturday there were so many people that it was like there were people who had to leave because it was too much. Like it was alarming, I guess, how many people were there, crammed in, and not
Like
really.
from a COVID standpoint, or just in general?
It sounded like a general anxiety kind of standpoint. If you're like me, John, not really loving crowds, like especially if you feel like you're kind of penned in a little bit, that can be not great. I know Casey feels me on that.
I mean, like the flip side is like good on them if it was like that big a success. Like you got to figure that out. Like do more events, do them more frequently. There's clearly demand for the Joe Bob live experience. I don't know why the hell he doesn't do more. Maybe because he's old. I don't know. You tell me. But
well, so he says too, like every night that they were there, they signed stuff from the early afternoon until like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh wow.
So that's pretty hardcore.
that's what I'm saying. Does Joe Bob? I mean, maybe he needs the money that bad. That's a lot.
Honestly,
Why
dude,
not just?
can I be
Here's
real
the
with
other
you?
thing.
What the vibe I get from him, he just fucking loves it. Like he loves
Yeah.
having had this renaissance and really being able to connect with people.
That's what he
you
does.
both- you both are going to tell me I'm an asshole. But as a business person, here's another suggestion I would make to the Joe Bob community or the people running this thing. Just raise the price of tickets. Like, just charge
Dude,
more for them.
He's such a
Well,
capitalist.
you got to figure
Schnoz.
there's, especially coming out of COVID and stuff like that, coming out of 2020, they probably don't really know. I would be willing to guess that they didn't have a good feel of what
No,
kind of
that's
turnout.
Totally true. But it's like, all right, now you know there's like shitloads of demand. Like,
Yeah.
you almost have to raise the price of tickets so that you like only get the people who like really, really want to
Well,
be
so the
there
other
and they
interesting
get a
thing,
good experience.
Casey, maybe you saw this too. I swear I read that they're actually the piece of land they're on is being bought. Like they're in danger of shutting down or something because it.
Well, I think that was part of this thing. From my understanding, was they were raising funds to save this drive-in, and I think they were successful from what I saw this weekend.
Sounds like it's like, how are
Yeah.
they not successful? But I don't know. Well, good on Robel.
Yeah.
It sounds, the whole thing, I think the whole idea of this Joe Bob marathon was cool, doing it at this drive-in, but like a week-long thing, it sounds a little too much like a gathering of the Juggalos to me, a little too close.
In the neighborhood.
I mean that like, you know, I need some creature comforts. Like some people stayed there in tents in the muddy.
Yeah.
Maybe when I was
There's-
like 20, not the age that I am now. Like
You
again,
gotta
which
figure
again to
there's
John's
gross stuff
point.
happening in the mud by
but
the
to
end of this weekend.
Well, oh yeah. But to Schnorz's point, if I was 2 hours away, yeah, I'd do a day trip and check it out. Like sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Thank you to Robale for Elizabeth is back. Can we hear you?
I hear you.
Yeah, you're
Can you hear
here.
me?
Awesome. I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Eric.
Yeah.
Okay.
Skype kicked me out of the call, but I'm here. We're good. So yeah, thanks to Robale for sending that in. I'd said I was gonna read all of it, but I didn't. But he wanted to just give shout out to Joe Bob for signing so much. It was really amazing. In the end, it was fun. The fans I met were super cool. I personally met people from Florida, Texas, and Vermont. There were people from everywhere. The weather sucked, and they probably should have sold less tickets to see what they could handle. But everything points to this being a returning event. So yeah, there's a Robale's report there. So that was cool. I love it. Info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Casey, what is on Twitter?
On Twitter's use the hashtag, not the ass tag, AskBGH. Get your questions in there. First one, he does comes from @LovelyDeadAdam, and he does point out this isn't a question, but it was a story he wanted to share. Caitlin's Purge BJ story reminded me of seeing a guy walk into Under the Skin right when the nude scene started, sat up front, and a few minutes later walked out of the theater pulling up his pants and zipping up.
Wow.
He must have checked the Mr. Skin time codes.
I mean, you know, I'm thinking about that movie. That movie's real weird. Like, I don't know if I could get there.
Yeah.
It's a little
Well,
weird.
if you only walked in for the nude scenes, I guess. Like,
Right.
Yeah, that would make it easier.
I also like,
specific.
I enjoy the Mr. Skin reference.
Yeah.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good. That happened to me one time. Me and a bunch of my friends actually were at this dirty little indie theater seeing The Slums of Beverly Hills, and it was the part where Natasha Lyonne is using her mom's vibrator. She finds a vibrator at some point in the movie, and this dude who was like 175 years old was sitting 5 feet away from us, and the unmistakable sound of a man jerking off was just like,
oh God,
in the air, like for real. We were like, what is that?
At 107,
like,
good for
shaking
him.
A chicken, or like, what is this noise? Like,
good
oh
for
my
him.
God. We were
God,
the only people in there too, besides him.
107, that's wild. Stars, we should all be so lucky to even be able to do that at 107.
Keep it at home. Is all I'll
He was
say.
like the crypt keeper. So that we weren't even like on our guard to be like, he might be a predator. We were like, he's a cute grandpa. Why is he at this movie? And then we were like, what the fuck, dude? Like, no thanks.
All right.
Yeah, that story was fucking Caitlin's story. I've never heard anything like that before. That's completely insane.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Next up, we have our good buddy Skizbot. Goes a little political here. Would you rather be forced to have a conversation with Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro?
Ugh, I hate this question.
I don't
Next.
know enough about. I mean, I don't know. Enough
I would
about either
rather
of them,
put a
really.
bullet in my
I
brain
know
than
enough
talk.
about you, John. The answer is neither.
Well, I mean, I didn't think that was a potential.
Yeah, I guess no. I don't have an answer. I refuse to answer this. That's my answer.
I assume Ben Shapiro only because I don't think I've ever heard him speak. Versus like Tucker Carlson, I've at least like heard sound bites.
Ben Shapiro is
and
a
he sounds like a
child.
fucking
Ben Shapiro
joke.
is a child who thinks he's an adult. That's kind of all you need to know about it.
That's fine. I have 3 children that think they're adults a lot of
Yeah,
the time.
so we know how to deal with them. You just ignore it
Yeah.
and you move on.
All right. Last up, we have what's becoming a new regular Ask BGH from our friends at the Crypt Dads. At Crypt Dads, that's the dads from the Crypt. FMK, Chris Maloney, Chris Noth, which I'm assuming is a
Marry
typo.
Chris Maloney. I don't even need to hear the
Sex
rest
in
of
the
it.
City.
And Chris Elliott.
And Chris Elliott. Okay, so wait, hold on. So stand by. It is.
This is the
It is.
easiest one of
Wait.
all
So
time.
it is pretty easy. So so just for the audience sake, it's Chris Maloney of Law and Order SVU fame, Chris Noth of Sex in the City, and Chris Elliott of
Cabin Boy.
Scream 2 / let's say Schitt's Creek. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
This is the easiest thing in the world. You kill Chris Elliott.
Yeah.
You bang Chris Noth because he seems like he's way too into himself for any kind of long-term relationship, and Chris Maloney's like the coolest dude. Marry him. Like it's easy.
Yeah. I don't know who Chris
Right.
Noth is, so that's the first I've heard of his name, but I'm with John. I'd marry Chris Maloney. That dude is funny.
Elizabeth,
he's
what do you say?
He's the best. I agree with your answer, Eric. Also, I think something interesting about this game that people don't always consider and is a good thing to remember when you're playing, guys. whoever you marry, you're probably fucking. So it's not like you don't get to
Right.
fuck the other people.
Well,
like,
it's right.
Who
It's,
knows? Maybe you're a straight sociopath and you fuck the one you kill. Like, it's not like you. So like,
Wow, you took it to a darker place than I thought you were gonna go, but that's
it's my job.
the funny
But
thing
she's not
about
wrong.
the funny thing about this question that this person couldn't know is that like Elizabeth and I have been watching Schitt's Creek for a while. I'd never seen it before, and spent an inordinate amount of time talking about how badly Chris Elliott makes us really uncomfortable, like just looking at him.
that's why he's funny. Like he's.
I know.
I mean,
it
it's his
works.
thing. It's
very
his
effective.
shtick. Yeah.
I've loved Chris Elliott since he was making people uncomfortable on Letterman back in the day.
Take my strong hand. That's pretty much all I know him from. Is just Scream 2. All right, Casey. What do you say? Is that it?
That is it for tweets.
Love it. Look at that, John. It's 9:30.
Amazing.
You can go do whatever it is you do.
On the nose.
Yeah. All right, guys. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us this evening.
Guys,
Everybody,
for real, thanks for having me. This has been an absolute honor and pleasure, and y'all rock. Super fun.
of course, if people want to check out more of what Elizabeth's working on, they can check her out at Final Girl Scout on Twitter and Instagram. John, we got to talk about the schedule. So I'm not prepared to do that at this moment.
I'm not quite prepared.
No.
Maybe
What
we
I'm
could-
telling you is we have to talk about it, not on the show.
Oh, good. Okay, that's fine.
So yeah,
Hello talk
Yeah.
for later.
that's gonna
There you
do
go.
it for this episode of Bloody Good Horror. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.